What's going on YouTube? So recently there has been a ton of excitement about the upcoming next generation OG Mustang Coupe. But we mustn't forget about the other Mustang out there, the silent but shockingly quick Mach-E. So let's go ahead and see just how much Mustang DNA is in this high performance GT model. So let's go ahead and start out with the spec dump. Now, under the hood of any EV is either a frunk or nothing, and I'm happy to say that this Mach-E does have a frunk, 4.7 cubic feet of space in here. Additionally, it can be used as a cooler because it has a drain and it is also watertight, so very useful frunk right here. Yeah, for sure. It's definitely quite large for a vehicle of this size. Now let's talk about performance, though, which of course you can't see under the hood. This is going to come with the standard extended range battery pack, so 91 kilowatt hours on board, and big power with this GT model. 480 horsepower and 600 pound-feet of torque. That's good to take it to 60 miles an hour in 3.8 seconds with the regular model, 3.5 if you go for the performance, and as far as your range, you're sitting at 270 miles of range. Now the GT model is distinguished in many ways, including with the exterior design, so we'll go ahead and close up the hood and take a look at that. Now, like I just said, it's going to be pretty obvious that this is the GT model of the Mach-E lineup because this is a very aggressive front end design. Now, of course, being an electric vehicle, you're not going to have a traditional grille, but the GT actually comes the closest to having a traditional grille look. So as you can see, Ford has kind of cut out this section where a grille normally would be, and even though it is fully sealed off, they've kind of applied a grille-like texture so that when you see this GT model, it does have that more aggressive and menacing appearance. Of course, your Mustang right there is going to be fully blacked out as well. And then the lower fascia here is going to be very aggressive. So as you can see, we've got this large underbody kit that's going to stick out right through there. You do have a little section here. This is where your cooling, of course, is going to be. And let's take a look at the headlights as well. So we do have full LED headlights as you'd expect. You've got the signature sequential turn signal that Mustangs always have, your LED daytime running light. These are projector LEDs as well. No fog lights or anything like that, but you do have a black accent down here at the bottom. Now as we move to the rear design, even though this was made before the next generation Mustang came out, there's just certain elements of a Mustang that are never going to change, and that kind of is the rear design. This is certainly the place where it resembles the traditional coupe Mustang the most. Yeah, and I really like the way it looks on this SUV. It looks very sporty and nice. Now, I do want to point out GT badging back here for the GT models. Of course, if you go for a regular Mach-E, you're just gonna have the pony back here. And let's check out our taillights. Like Drew said, this is a very big element that resembles the current Mustang. See if all the elements are LED. So we have an LED brake light, we have an LED turn signal indicator. It's a nice sequential design, and we also have an LED reverse light strip down here in the bottom. So 3 out of 3 elements are LED. I really love the way these taillights look, especially with the sequential amber turn signal indicators. That looks really flawless. Now down here at the bottom, of course, this is an EV, so no exposed exhaust outlet, so no, you're not going to have the quad exhaust setup from the Mustang. And as far as towing is concerned, it's not recommended for this Mach-E, which is something worth noting because the Model Y can tow 3,500 pounds. Another way you'll be able to identify this is the GT model is by unique wheel options. So we have the 20-inch alloy wheels, a very unique design on board. So this part is actually alloy, and then here in the center section you have a aero cover to give you the best range possible. Now if you choose the GT Performance model, you will see some differences though. You'll have a different alloy wheel. You'll also have your tires substituted out for high performance summer tires. That's one of the main things that allows that model to get higher performance than the standard GT model. Now as we move up here to the mirrors, we do have the nice gloss black finish on board, LED turn signal indicators, and we also have power folding and blind spot monitoring. Now here at the side of the Mach-E, you're going to see a very sleek design, especially for an SUV. It's very aerodynamic looking, and also part of that is because you don't have exposed door handles, you have a push design. Drew will talk a little bit more about that when we get onto the inside. Now, as far as the overall length is concerned, we're looking at 186.7 inches, which is nearly identical to the Tesla Model Y. Now, for those of you concerned about the safety systems, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are, you're going to have Ford's Copilot 360 package as standard equipment, which includes all 4 of your active safety features. Now, we're not done yet, though, because Ford is offering Blue Cruise, which is a hands-free highway driving system. You get a 90-day trial included on all models. Additionally, you can option on 3 years of it for $2,100. But guys, that wraps up the sleek Mach-E on the outside. And if you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars.
Now let's roll on to the interior. First, we'll take a look at the key fob. Ford does include a standard smart entry system. You have the typical key fob, but you have special Mustang branding, of course. This does also have digital key, so you can use your phone to get inside the vehicle. Speaking of getting inside the vehicle, it's a little interesting in the Mach-E. You don't have a traditional door handle like Mason was mentioning. Instead, you're just going to press this little button right here. It's going to kind of push the door out, and you have this little handle to grab a hold of and open it up. All right, so go ahead and take a look inside the cabin. First of all, you'll see some cool animations across the large display. But before we get into all the individual details, let's talk a little bit about interior color and material options. So your standard versions of the Mach-E will come with ActiveX leatherette. When you get to the GT model, though, that's also going to have ActiveX leatherette, but it's going to have a more aggressive suede insert in the center. That's, of course, going to help you stay in place when you're driving very aggressively. As you can see, pretty thick bolsters, nice stitching design as well running through here. Black is going to be the normal option, but you can get gray on the Performance Edition. And then you do have an 8-way power adjustment across the entire lineup with 2-way lumbar support and standard memory seating here on this GT model. But let's go ahead and climb inside. Now that we're fully inside the cabin, let's look at the rest of the material. So starting with our door trim. Here with the GT model, we have a leatherette material running across the armrest with the stitching detail. The center section is going to be finished in that same suede material, just like the center of the seat. And then we have a soft touch plastic along the top. Now as we move to the upper dashboard, this part is going to be a hard touch plastic, but it does have a nice texture to it. The center section is this really cool cloth over top of a sound bar type of thing, which is pretty cool. I'll show you the audio system a little later. And we have more suede and aluminum trim through the center. Overall, everything feels nice and solid inside of this cabin. We do have a traditional push button start for this model, so just put your foot on the brake and press it to fire up. But like always, let's go ahead and transition into a first-person perspective and take a look at some of the details closer up. So first off, we have a gauge cluster. So of course, a lot of EVs actually have moved away from having a gauge cluster at all, but we do have a traditional style digital setup right here in front of the driver. It is a 10.2-inch display. Just be aware that you don't have a head-up display even here on the GT model. It's not available in the lineup. As we pull back to the steering wheel, you're going to notice a nice design here, really thick rimmed, nice leather wrapping, blacked out Mustang emblem in the front. It is going to be manual tilt and telescoping. Most models are going to have steering wheel heating, including this GT model. All right, now let's move on to interior storage. I think you're going to be pretty impressed by what you find. So we'll start out underneath of our center armrest here, which does have GT branding on it, by the way. When I lift that up, you have a nice deep bin, plenty of space, felt lining, and a 12-volt outlet inside. We have our stack of coupons though. Let's see if they fit. Look at that, they fit, no problem. We don't have to fold it in half, and then we can slide that cover closed, and you won't even have to look at them either. Up in front of that, you got your 2 cup holders. You have another large storage tray. This is going to be a standard wireless phone charging pad here on the left-hand side, and you have some USB connections. Down below, we have even more storage. So it's kind of a floating console design where you have lots of pass-through spaces to stick all types of objects. Now as we pull back to the shifter, this is the kind of typical Ford shifter, just the rotary style. Just going to twist over for drive, twist to the R for reverse. When you go into reverse, you're going to find a 360-degree camera system pop up. As you can see, the bottom part of the display is going to be your traditional view. The top part of the display will be your 360 view. And you can also go to certain sections of the vehicle for a closer look. Then park, of course, is the P. Next to that, you have your electronic parking brake, and you do have an automatic parallel and perpendicular parking function, which you can access by pressing that button right there. Now, of course, we can't really go any further without mentioning this gigantic 15.5-inch central touchscreen. That's because a lot of the main functionalities of this cabin are going to be located inside of this display. So let's kind of start to dig into some of those things. First off, I want to talk about your climate controls. Those are going to be down here in the lower part of the screen. Dual zone automatic climate control is standard across the board. You can make your adjustments very easily by tapping on the touchscreen right there, or once you start making those adjustments, you can use this central knob to adjust that up and down as well. This is where you will turn on your heated steering wheel, and we also have automatic 3-stage heated seats on board as well. Now, down here in the lower section, when you are not adjusting other things such as the fan speed or the temperature, this central knob integrated into the display is for our audio system. So we have a standard 10-speaker Bang & Olufsen sound system, and we'll go ahead and give that a sample right now. So overall sound quality of this system is quite good, as you'd expect for a vehicle that has a big sound bar that basically goes across the entire front of the cabin. All right, so let's move on into the main part of the infotainment system. So first off, this is Ford's newest version of Sync, is Sync 4. And compared to what we sampled when this first came out in 2021, I have to say they made some big improvements to the overall performance of this system. Right now I'm in the standard wireless Android Auto. You also have wireless Apple CarPlay as well. And when I click into that, that's going to take me back to kind of our home page where we can select different types of applications right there. This is going to be the standard built-in navigation. Looks really, really nice. Takes up all of the display here. And like I was saying, just really a lot better performance than when we last tested this out. They've done a lot to smooth this out. You can click into different things. You have kind of your shortcuts down here at the bottom, so you can quickly go between your recently used apps. And overall, I think this system really makes a lot of sense and operates quite well. Moving above that display, we do have an auto-dimming mirror. This is standard, and we also have our HomeLink universal remotes built into the visor itself. And then up here at the roof, you'll find something that a lot of EVs are doing, and that's including a fixed panoramic sunroof on the premium trim and above. As you can see, there's not going to be a sunshade on this, but it is darkly tinted. And then like I was saying, it does not open up. It is a fixed unit.
Now come on back here with me in the Mach-E GT's rear seat. Now this area is very impressive when you first sit back here because we have quite a bit of legroom and a lot of headroom. To be exact, we're looking at 38.1 inches of legroom, 40.4 inches of headroom, and honestly, I feel like the headroom figure feels even bigger because we do have that panoramic moonroof up at the top. It feels very open and airy in this rear seat. As far as how that is compared to the Tesla Model Y, that is going to be a little bit less space, but overall, not bad at all, especially for someone of my size. Now, the seat is adjusted to Drew, who's 5'8". We're looking at about 8.5 inches of knee space, and I'm 5'9" for reference. My feet can also partially slide in. I mean, I can definitely get the tip in, but not fully slide it in. Now, here in the center, let's go ahead and talk about this. We have rear vents right here in the middle. That's going to be standard equipment. We also have 2 USB ports, a USB-C and a USB-A port. No heated rear seats are offered on this Mach-E, so that's a little bit of an interesting thing that the Tesla Model Y, of course, does offer, but you're not going to get here on the Model Y, or Mach-E, excuse me. And then here in the center, we do have a nice center armrest with 2 cup holders inside. Let's take it to the door trim, guys. The door trim is going to be made of real nice materials here. On the upper part, it's a soft touch plastic. We have some nice brown accenting going through here, leather padded armrest area, Alcantara in the middle, and we do have some bottle storage down in the very bottom. Do be aware, though, you do have to kind of lay it down to fit it in there. All right, so walking up to the Mach-E's cargo area, we're going to have a hands-free power tailgate on the premium trims and above. So we do have that on this model. And as far as the cargo space is concerned back here, we're looking at 29.7 cubic feet of cargo capacity behind the second row seats. If we reach up and fold them down, which is a little bit hard to do because it is a just button integrated right there. There we go. They do fold 60-40 split. And then as a maximum, we're looking at a little less than 60 cubic feet, about 59 cubic feet of cargo capacity. That is going to be less than the Tesla Model Y. Of course, you would expect that because this has a little bit more of a sleek presence, a sloping roofline. So it does impact your cargo capacity ever so slightly. Now, I did bring our measuring tape because we believe in science. Just like Bill Nye, we believe in science here at Car Confections. So from the back of the seat back to the rear of the cargo area, we're looking at 69 inches of space. Nice. That is going to be just exactly the right size of the average length of an adult bicycle, 69 inches long. So you can definitely fit an adult bicycle back here. As far as the width is concerned, we're looking at about 43 inches of space. So definitely good space figures in the Mach-E. We do also have a 12-volt outlet on the side. Don't forget about the frunk up in the front that has 4.7 cubic feet as well. And then underneath of here, not really any space, and there is not going to be a spare tire. All right, guys, here we are behind the wheel of the 2023 Ford Mustang Mach-E GT, the fast one. We're certainly excited to show you what this vehicle is capable of behind the wheel. We'll be talking about a lot of different things in this test drive, including getting our sound level reading. But first, let's start with hard acceleration.
That was just 70 miles per hour.
Wow.
Well, it's fast, guys, as you would probably expect from the performance that we laid out in the spec dump. This is a very high performance vehicle. Of course, with the Mach-E, you have got a wide variety of choices that you can pick from, starting at, a lot more tame but higher range options. And then this one right here, you've got the 480 horsepower, 600 pound-feet of torque.
You feel every bit of that 600 pound-feet of torque when you take off, and it just slams you into the back of the seat. That is for sure.
Yeah, you can just punch this at any speed and you're gonna really be pushed back in your seat with all that power. Now the GT with performance package, that does have a little bit more power actually. We didn't really fully get into the specifications of that, but if you choose the performance package, it's gonna up your torque to 640 pound-feet of torque. You'll keep the horsepower the same, but Ford makes other adjustments, which is what helps it achieve higher performance, such as the tires, suspension changes, things like that. Which, let's talk about the 0 to 60 times.
Yeah, it's actually, instead of 640, it's 634 pound-feet of torque. A slight little correction there, but the 0 to 60 is 3.5 seconds for GT performance models, 3.8 seconds for the standard GT that we're in today.
So we're kind of going around some corners there. Of course, this is going to be sprung tighter than the standard version of the Mach-E. Because you've got to have a suspension that can keep up with all this performance, that's for sure. Just a little bit of body roll because this is an SUV after all, and it is very heavy because you have a large battery pack, but the weight is down low, so that keeps things pretty balanced overall. Steering is nice and heavy as well. Good response. As you can see, just a little off center, you get that immediate feedback.
Now, before we get any further, I do want to kind of breeze through some of the different options that you can get when it comes to the Mach-E. And if you're not choosing the GT model specifically, you do have the standard range model. That's the weakest one, the standard range rear drive, 266 horsepower, 247 miles of range. And there's a lot of different versions. The highest range figure you can get on a Mach-E is 306 miles with the extended range rear drive model. So those are just kind of the opposite extremes. There are several different other options you can choose as well, but obviously this review is going to be focused on the GT model. We're hoping to have a separate review for the other Mach-E models as well.
Right, Ford just kind of lets you kind of pick and choose combinations of which type of battery you want. Like we mentioned at the beginning, this does have the extended range battery as standard on the GT because you need it for the extra performance and to still get good range, so the 91 kilowatt hour battery.
And you do have the option between rear drive and all-wheel drive, or it is standard on the GTs. Now, I do want to take a second here to talk about the ride quality, especially as we're in our designated strip where we go over some cobblestone paths so you can really feel the suspension and how it's handling things. I will say that this Mach-E GT is on the firmer side when it comes to the suspension. Certainly, when you go over something, it's going to make some intrusion into the cabin. That's, of course, kind of what you want if you really like that sporty characteristic and feel. It's going to be able to provide you those good driving dynamics, as Drew was talking about earlier. One thing I want to point out, though, is that if you go for the GT Performance model, you do have adaptive dampers, so that could make your ride quality more variable, as opposed to just the straight firm setup that we're getting on this GT. You might be able to have a little bit more comfort side as well as the sporty side because you do have that adaptability. So that's just something to consider. If you're looking for a Mach-E GT, you might want to spring for that performance pack model for the increased suspension control. This thing is so quick. All right.
Now you guys are probably noticing that it's not completely silent. That's because when you're accelerating, especially in the unbridled mode, which is what we've been in, that's the top performance mode for this GT, you get a sound that kind of Ford brings into the cabin. It's supposed to sound V8-ish. Yeah, sure, I can say it sounds a little bit like a V8. Obviously, it's not like your...
It's not a Mustang
V8
GT,
Mustang
no.
GT, but... You know, I do like that you have a little bit of sensation of sound. You can turn it off, though, so you can stay in unbridled mode, still turn off the sound if you don't like it.
Yeah.
Personally, I think we like to have a little bit of that sound.
Speaking of sound, we're on our designated strip to do our signature sound level reading. So let's go ahead and get into that, going 55 miles per hour. Very good. 54.1 decibels. And what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to go on carconfections.com and go to the sound level readings tab, where I can see every single car that we've reviewed and all of the sound level readings for the entire segment. It's a really useful tool, and you should check it out too, carconfections.com. So I'm going to go ahead and see how this compares to other EVs. And as far as how that ranks among other EVs that we've tested out, that puts it as number 7 in the segment. It is going to be actually a little quieter than the 2021 Mustang Mach-E non-GT that we tested out, but very good sound level reading. All these EVs are very quiet. Of course, there's no engine noise entering into the cabin. You do have that kind of artificial noise, but other than that, it's very quiet inside of here and very little wind noise at all. Now, I do have a few other things that I want to talk about that are EV specific. Let's talk range. You heard us mention at the spec dump, it's 270 miles for the GT that we're in today. If you choose the GT Performance, it's 260 miles of range, which is a lot more than Kia EV6 GT. It's still going to be less than the Model Y Performance, but pretty good range figures, that's for sure. I'm happy with that. As far as the charging abilities, it's capable of 150 kilowatt DC fast charging. It can charge 61 miles of range in 10 minutes. So pretty good on the charging as well for this Mach-E.
Now you might have thought we forgot, but we didn't. It's time for our slam dunk and airball. I'll start with the slam dunk. We think this is going to be the design of this Mach-E. You know, being called a Mustang is somewhat controversial, but you have to admit that taking those design elements from the Mustang Coupe and applying them to this sleek electric crossover has really done it a lot of favors. It's a very nice looking vehicle. It still catches your eye a lot when you see one out in the street, and it's been out for a couple years.
I think it's a big difference from a Tesla Model Y, where they're a dime a dozen. You see them everywhere. This at least looks different, and it's something unique and cool looking. Now, as far as our airball is concerned, it's going to be just that. The Model Y is one of those options. It just keeps getting cheaper and cheaper, and of course they change the price all the time, but currently you're sitting at about $55,000 for a fully loaded performance model, and then you get a $7,500 tax credit. So it's a hard case. This is going to be quite a bit more expensive than a Model Y, which I think is really this vehicle's weakest point. I think it's very comparable at the same price point, but when you start looking at a big price difference, it's going to be hard for Ford to keep up with the price competitiveness that Tesla's doing with their Model Y. And lastly, let's talk about warranty. We're looking at 3-year 36,000 miles for your basic, 5-year 60,000 miles for your powertrain. For the electric unique components, it's going to have an 8-year 100,000 mile warranty. So you don't have to worry about the specific electric components in this Mach-E, because you do have a very good warranty on that. Now let's talk price for the Mach-E model. Now you might have heard the news. They actually have reduced the price down on the Mach-E very recently. So we're actually looking at a little bit cheaper of a price point than what is on this particular window sticker. But this model right here, this is the base GT model with no options on it. We have an $1,800 destination charge. So this particular model, we're going to be sitting at about $61,500 if you're looking to order one today. As far as the pricing for the other models, we're starting at $42,995 for the standard model, $46,995 for premium. California Route 1 is $56,995, and the GT models start at under 60 grand now, $59,995. Do also keep in mind, we have a $3,750 tax rebate currently in the US. And guys, that's what we're going to leave off on this in-depth review of the 2023 Ford Mustang Mach-E GT. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, we would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. Join this Car Confections family. I promise you won't regret it. We love cars, and we have a lot to talk about when it comes to cars. If you're already a part of that family, please continue to be, and thank you so much for your continued support. If you haven't had the chance to go ahead and check out our all-new carconfections.com website, please also do that, and check out our TikTok and Instagram pages. We'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.